Hi, everybody. Welcome to Impossible Live. Welcome back if you're joining us. Delighted you're popping in today and joining Terise and I today for Impossible Live. Tune into the sound rainbow to achieve inner calm. If you're joining us for the first time, please don't hesitate to introduce yourself in chat. And you may be joining us on most platforms. You may be joining us live. You may be joining us for replays. We'd really love to know who you are, what questions you have, and what's one way or multiple ways that we can help you in between impossible lives. And I'm delighted to have met Terise in Thought Leadership Branding Club, a community that we're both members of, run by Bobby Umar. And I'd love to give Terise a chance to introduce herself, let you know a little bit more about her before we dive into today's topic. So, Terise, please introduce yourself and welcome, warm welcome to Impossible Live.
Thank you, Melanie. I really appreciate this opportunity. I love that you invited me to talk to the people who you serve and anyone else who might be joining us today. For those who do not know who I am, I'm a certified health and wellness life coach and an EFT or tapping meditation practitioner. That's where you tap on different meridians of the body to stimulate a portion of your brain, and it actually makes a difference. And I usually focus on the issues of importance to Black women and their issues because they have things like racism-related stress, and etc. I do give one-on-one coaching sessions for relaxation, clarity of thought. I set up personalized coaching programs so we can address empowerment issues like confidence and self-esteem and creating satisfying relationships and learning about nutrition and healthy weight loss and maintenance and improving your overall health and peace of mind. I start with small, simple steps that everyone can do that are respectful of your time and your budget, because I understand, okay, how precious that stuff is. And I also have a LinkedIn newsletter that's bi-weekly, and it's called Savvy, Sleek, and Sassy. And I also host Thursdays LinkedIn audio sessions called Gather at the Hearth. We get together, support each other in a safe space. And I guess if there's any more questions that you have about me, you can go ahead and give those to Melanie. But that's the main thing. And what I want to do is basically empower our communities and empower Black women and empower people to have less crazy lives and have lives of some fulfillment and some happiness. Oh, I thank you, Shell, saying it's exciting about achieving inner calm. So let me, Melanie, is there anything that you wanted to ask or say before I get into the topic today? And I hope I didn't take too much time talking about myself, but I wanted to give them
You
an
are
idea.
you are so good. One of my guests joined us and introduced themselves for 6 minutes. So I want to thank you for like helping us stay with you. Welcome, Shell. Welcome, Barbara Fonte. PQ coaches in the house. Welcome, Afola Afola by I apologize. Welcome from Nigeria. And thanks for popping in to join us. And I apologize if I have so mispronounced your name. I will definitely check on LinkedIn later and look for a pronunciation key so I can make sure I have your name correctly. And Shell's right. Never too much time, Therese. It's one of the things about Impossible Live, and I really appreciate you joining us. Is in the beginning I wasn't sure necessarily what it was for. I had a fabulous guest like yourself in mind, and I said I better practice. And Sarah, welcome. Thank you so much for popping in. Welcome to Impossible Live, and welcome Clarine in the house. Thank you so much for joining us. One of the things I love, Teresa, is I'm a teacher's kid. Mom always taught me raise my hand that somebody else in the room in the space had the same question or might have a related question, or maybe it was just, kind of where we were supposed to go today, and Shell says it best. And Shell, I really want to thank Shell and Clarine for kind of being in the house. Shell and Clarine do amazing, amazing LinkedIn lives, and they offer tremendous services to help us really locate our voice on the platform. And let's let you, mm, and I love this because really, I'm going to sit here with a pen just like everybody else and try not to get lost in my notes. But we are definitely going to raise our hands. We're definitely going to say, hey, Terise, um, what in the world does that mean? And Sarah says she's here and she's excited about this topic. So you're definitely going to get a bunch of reactions and responses. But Terise, take us away. We're kind of in your good hands. Just know that I'm going to be like, hey, we have a question.
Okay, yeah, please do let me know because I'll be focusing on what I'm talking about and glancing at my notes because there's material to cover. But as people have questions, let me know what's going on. I don't want to leave people behind because I said something that didn't make any sense. Okay, so before we start talking about using sound to calm the mind, and I love it that we have that capability. I was looking at how sounds affect us in our daily lives. I'll start with things that I've noticed as I've gone through my years, right? Hearing nails scrape across a blackboard, absolutely irritating. Some people, they thought it was fun. I didn't. Malfunctioning microphone that all of a sudden gives that high piercing sound. The last thing you want to hear. It makes you want to jump out of your skin. I went to parades as a child. People were drumming, and I felt that drumming right at the pit of my stomach. It was terrible. I went on a trip to San Francisco, calmly walking along the wharf, and then someone with what I call a hellified stereo on wheels. He had his sounds turned up so loud. It hurt my sensitive ears, and it affected seniors who had amplifiers in their ears, to amplify the sound. It hurt them, actually. And then I've noticed things like when I'm hearing rain tapping on the roof, it's very calming for me. It can put me into a deep sleep state. I have vivid dreams. And I know about cringing at nails on a chalkboard. I know what you mean. And I have vivid dreams, and I'm usually pretty groggy, waking up from a night of rain. And someone told me that's how you feel when you have a sleeping pill. Well, I've never taken sleeping pills, but the sound of that rain tapping on the roof is so powerful that that's the effect that it has on me. And I'm sure some other people sometimes. And then when I lived in Denver, there were some visiting Buddhist monks who were using what they call it's a Tibetan singing bowl. And I'm sure some of you have heard some of this if you've had some meditation, and they ring it and it just resonates. And one man explained, yes, we hit the singing bowl and we chant. And we consider that to be the sound and energy of the wisdom and compassion of what we're chanting. So it's a real mind-body thing when they use the sound like that. When I was in the field of medicine, we used ultrasound machines to clean medical equipment. That's how powerful sound is, right? And then recently, reports in Phoenix, some of the people started complaining about an incessant humming sound, and no one could identify the source. They sent out lab techs who, were audiologists that studied sound. They sent out the authorities. No one ever found the source of the sound. And some people still hear it. And guess it depends on how sensitive they are. Barbara, I guess you use the Tibetan singing bowl. That's cool. And then I've also seen, now this is interesting, with some lab tests, what they did, they brought people into a room, sat them in a chair, and there was, nothing on the walls or anything like that, just enough light, plenty of light. They sat in the chair for 10 minutes and they fed into the room without letting them know. They fed into the room certain sound frequencies. It made people feel like they were having a religious experience. It made them feel like the other ones felt like they were having an encounter with a ghost they couldn't see. See, I mean, that's how much it affects our brain waves, our mind, and our bodies. Um, and then the Russian and Chinese governments have been doing sound frequency experiments, unfortunately, on some diplomats traveling, staying in hotel rooms. They were all getting sick and having strange symptoms. It was from sound frequencies. Now, the US government has also done experiments like this, and they abandoned them. Why? Because of the ethical concerns. You don't want to mess people up because some of those effects were pretty damaging and long lasting. So, so basically, you can see that sound really does affect us in many ways. And
If you've never
if there's
used
anyone, go ahead.
if you never use sound, like maybe I'm not the best example, but occasionally I have migraines and migraine auras. Occasionally I'm really sound sensitive, so I've never been around singing bowls continuously. We just had one of those storms that blew in with really high winds. Really can be really sensitive
Yes.
to uh, to kind of the barometric pressure. I appreciate what Clarine's saying about the sound of her singing bowl calming me down immediately. If we've never had a singing bowl, how where would you suggest? What's a great
You know,
place to find them, or a great, is there a type or a size you recommend?
no, because people are different. But I will tell you that if you go to some spas, a lot of spas will offer that. Go in and try it for a minute. Just say, I've never had it. I don't want to pay for it until I know how it's going to kind of affect me. I knew a lady who did that because she did have some issues and it helped her. But she didn't, it's one of those things where you don't know till you hear it, and it did work for her. These spas now they're incorporating a lot of this sound therapy, which we'll talk about later. But and as far as the size of it, you know, each person is different. If you already know you're sensitive to sounds, period, I would start small. I always say start small, start simple. I'm hoping that answers your question. Um, is there anything else before I go on? Because there's other stuff coming that's kind of exciting. All right. So
Showing
somebody
to
was
know
mentioning.
at
Oh,
all
go
with
ahead.
migraines?
Some people are helped with migraines. Yes, ma'am. They sure are. With pain relief, and we're going to talk about that in a minute too. Yep. And which is wonderful, right? Because instead of using a lot of toxic chemicals, you can use those with migraines. And I do know a couple of people have terrible problems with migraines, and it's helped. Um, Maybe not necessarily by the singing bowl, because there's lots of different sounds that they use, lots of different instruments. Um, let's just talk about sound therapy for a second. Sound therapy also can include music therapy. Um, oh, thank you, Christy. Um, a lot of people are using sound therapy that includes music therapy. Like I said, musical therapists, though, they have a more standardized format that they use. Sound therapy is kind of like the Wild West right now. It's still developing. Um, so if you do call it therapy, though, you should be a licensed therapist who then uses sound, right? You don't just say therapy. And it is an accepted alternative treatment that psychiatrists are using for things like depression and some autism symptoms. They use music, and they use sound intervention. If you're not a therapist, and you do use some of these sounds, like I use some sounds and music when I do my sessions, but I let them know I'm not a therapist. And then what I usually do is I kind of say, okay, what do you think about this sound? What do you think about this kind of song? Because there's wonderful music that I'm sure meditation music, and it's different kinds. And some people like the really like the music that has no form to it, and some people like something like soft jazz. Everybody's different, and you have to remember that. Um, so I call it sound healing. And I'll tell you an interesting story about sound healing, that if you hear a song that makes you feel better, that is a therapeutic song for you. And I'll tell you something, when I used to have bad colds, bad bouts of the flu, do not ask me why, but um, Bach's Symphony Number One, believe it or not, every time I listened to it, It really helped me heal faster. It may be something to do with maybe the way the sound waves that came from the instruments in that kind of music is what did it. But I didn't ask, I didn't question it. I simply turned it on every time I felt symptoms coming on. And of course, I use other things too, like common sense things. People use everything for sound. I've seen people use brushes against drums. They use tin drums. They use gongs. They use bells. And if a sound is irritating to you or whatever, you tell the person giving you the sound treatment, that won't work for me. A lot of times people are kind of afraid to speak up, because, oh, I'm not the expert. You're the expert at what resonates with you and what doesn't. Did you want to say something, Mel, or ask
You
a question?
reminded me of our cousin's wedding many moons ago. I had never heard tin drums. They had a beautiful wedding outdoors on like a gorgeous hill,
Mm,
multi-level property. Just the tin drums were just amazing. I just remember lots of family being there, which sometimes can be kind of stressful, but the tin drums kind of kept everybody cool, even the kids, you know.
yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. So, any more questions before I get into the concept of the sound rainbow here?
No, you're just having a bunch of comments on the back end from our amazing guests who've popped in, and welcome also Christy, more amazing PQ coaches and mental fitness coaches in the house. And
Cool.
please keep going. You definitely have our full attention. I wish you could see some of the hearts and the light bulbs that are
Yeah.
popping out. And
Oh, okay.
Christy's got a big one for you before you
Oh, thank
before
you very
you
much.
breathe back.
Mm,
She says she got
okay.
introduced to the power of sound vibrations on
Yes.
clarity, energy, trauma healing, and/or health through researcher Eileen McCusick. She calls it tuning our, is it somatic
And
autonomy, Christy, or sonatic? Sonatic. Oh, love new
somatic,
words.
somatic as in refers to sound. Yes, somatic anatomy.
That's
I've heard of
fantastic.
it, never used it, but I've heard of it, Christy. Yeah.
I love it. She says
Um,
she empowers people to clear the static, the noise, and the resistance from this system and experience greater energy and clarity. Christy, thank you always for lots of gems.
Thanks, Christy, for that information. And the reason why I call it the sound rainbow here is because, um, well, let me start with sound. And there are sound engineers who use specialized audio equipment, right, to produce these sounds. And in order to distinguish one from the other, they assigned or colors to each different kind of sound frequency and slash intensity. So I called it the sound rainbow because there were so many colors. I had no idea. Okay, they started with white noise because how else do you describe? It's like if you have a white piece of paper that has no text on it, right? It's just a blank piece of paper. But how do you describe a blank noise, right? So they started with white noise, and then after that, it was like I'd heard about white noise, but I started hearing about green noise and brown noise and pink noise, violet noise, blue noise. I mean, is that not a rainbow? And blue noise, if there's a special kind of radiation, I can't remember the kind it's called, and when it interacts with this noise, with certain kind of sound, it actually does emit a slightly blue tinge, but most of them are just to distinguish one from the other. And that sound, the blue noise, has the sound of a hissing garden hose. I wouldn't. I have never heard it. I don't know of anyone who uses it, but it does exist as one of the options, right? And we need to look at a couple of sound terms here, right? Amplitude is the height, like if you have a sound wave, right? The amplitude is the height of it, and that's the volume. That's how loud. The frequency is when you have those waves, how many of those are compressed into 1 second, right? So frequency, the number of your wave cycles per second. Now, the greater the frequency, the higher the pitch, and you perceive it as a shrill sound like a songbird. Now, I absolutely love like a songbird singing. If I heard nothing else the rest of my life, I love it so much. But there's other high pitched sounds like that scraping on the blackboard I don't like. The lower the frequency, the lower the pitch of the sound. And that's like the roar of a lion. If you've ever visited a zoo, you never forget that deep, low roar, right? So that's like the spectrum, right? Now, the unit of frequency, that in other words, how many of those sound cycles you have per second is called hertz. The human ear can hear 20 hertz per second. Can hear, sorry, 20 hertz. The highest frequency is 20,000 hertz. Now, when you blow a dog whistle, you can't hear it, right? Because dogs can hear up to 40,000 hertz. That's how acute their hearing is. And that's why you want to tell little kids who are playing with their dogs, you don't I've seen them use firecrackers near dogs. You never do that because it's unbelievably painful because their hearing is so acute. The same with thunder. That's something you might want to bring them in and have them in a quiet room away from the thunder for the same reason. Um, Now, when we look at these colors of the sound rainbow, to me, it just reminds me that there's different strokes for different folks. Some of those sounds will work for you and some won't. And, just experiment. What I love is it doesn't take long for you to figure out whether it's annoying you or it's enhancing your peace, right? And don't worry about when people say, well, most people are using this. I don't care if it's something that really doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. Now, I love methods that help us reduce stress or avoid medication. But if you're under someone's care, always consult with your licensed healthcare practitioner first before making any lifestyle change, including using something like sounds for healing or calmness, especially if you have mental health issues you're being treated for, right? So let me start with pink. Why? Because I just like pink. Some people use pink noise for sleeping because it has like a deep and steady sound, and it's a masking sound that like masks or it gets rid of other sounds. It drowns them out. And it's kind of a low frequency, like a waterfall sound, right? And electronic devices can emit pink noise too. And the pink noise, it has all the sound frequencies that humans can hear, but the low frequencies are more powerful. That's why it has a lower sound. And it can be several sounds in nature sound like it, like a waterfall, the rain, the wind, a rushing river, an ocean wave, a heartbeat, the rustling of trees, which is another one of my favorite sounds ever in the history of my mankind. And it's much more relaxing than the next one, which is white noise. White noise combines all the sound frequencies of the human ear also, but it does it equally at the same time. So it's kind of like a droning. Okay, it's a pleasant droning. It's not pleasant for me. It sounds like radio static or the hum of an air conditioner, the hum of a fan. And so no matter what frequency you have it at, it has equal power, but the ear doesn't pick up all the frequencies. So you just hear more of the brighter sounds. And it has a lot of applications though. It can help you with sleep. And another thing is tinnitus. Some people say tinnitus. I was always taught it was tinnitus, which is the ringing or the buzzing in your ears. It does amazing things for the ringing or in the ear. Um, and the ringing in the ear, of course, can have lots of causes: hearing loss, ear infection. Some medications can cause it. Some injuries can cause it. If you have ADHD, adult, it's basically you can't focus, right? It's attention a deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it makes it hard to focus. Um, and they used it on subjects. This is what I love. They used it on subjects and they watched their faces, and the muscles in their faces relaxed because they didn't have that mind chatter going. It cuts down that mind chatter. And for those who aren't familiar with the term mind chatter, these are things, your mind's going, these are things you have to do. These are things you haven't done. Your inner critic going and thinking about something someone said. But when you turn that off, using this white noise, then you can relax so much more. And it also has been used for pain relief, like the migraines we were talking about, and colicky babies. If you don't know what colic is, some babies, a lot of babies, when they're very young, they go through this period of time where they are just crying incessantly, right? Up to 3 hours at a time, usually at night or the evening when you want to sleep. And, they eventually grow out of it. But for some reason, if you use this noise, it helps to calm them down. Yes. I thank you, Christy, for it. Yeah. We do become more conscious of sound vibrations, and it does help to manage our health. It really does. And to me, it's one of the more affordable things, sound is sound. Um, Now, brown noise is different in that it's not actually a color. Okay, they call it brown noise, but it's short for Brownian noise, named after Robert Brown because he noticed how erratic. Like there was some, if you put small inanimate objects in water, they moved erratically. That certain motion that they had is called Brownian motion. Well, that's where they got that wave format from. So they call it brown, and it's got a kind of a let's see, as the frequency goes up, the power kind of decreases, and you can make the brown noise louder or softer more quickly. And it sounds like it can be like the wind or like a distant rolling thunder, or heavier water, like a heavy rainfall, a running shower. And it helps people focus. Yay. It's another thing that helps ADHD. And also, if you're in a work situation or something, library, study hall, and there are people yakking away and they don't get that it's time to shut up and let me focus, it kind of cancels that noise out so you can focus despite all the ambient noise. And so a lot of people
That's
use
an
that to focus.
interesting thing because some people are, neurodiverse, or others of us don't necessarily have a deliberate sound practice. I noticed I'm definitely getting more into working to music, working to change mood, working to change a pace, working to change, a tempo and a wide variety of it. I laugh because Clarine's mentioning that talking before about tin drums was an example of the power of positive sounds. I think you're reminding us sometimes as we see younger younger children with earphones on, their parents have them maybe at a concert or in another form where they're really trying to be really sensitive to the stimuli. And I love what you're saying about the colors and that you started with pink, your favorite color. Is there, if someone was feeling a real heavy, intense inner stress, and positive intelligence and mental fitness, we're always talking about it from the perspective of our saboteurs or needing to reframe it.
Mhm.
Is there a color of a sound that you'd suggest that kind of can increase the possibility of inner calm when you're not necessarily feeling like you can, like it exists in the environment?
Well, I'm going to come to my favorite noise pretty soon, and it is very calming. So hang in there. And yes, there is. And there's also what I use in my coaching sessions when I'm trying to relax people. I use a progressive muscle relaxation exercise, and I have them envision pink light. Pink is a very calming color, so I wasn't surprised that they named a calming sound with that same color, believe it or not. So you brought me to my next one, which is green noise. And green noise, it kind of amplifies like the mid-range frequency. Remember, it goes from one all the way up to another. And so the green noise, as it amplifies these mid-range frequencies, it's a gentle kind of, it's like if you think, how waterfalls can different heights, right? Different heights, sizes. Some of them are within caves or whatever, so they have different sounds. Some is a deeper sound, some is more like a light tinkle trickle. Well, the green noise is the gentle waterfall, gentle rain. And what's interesting about how they make green noise, they actually record nature sounds to get that. They record nature sounds. The other ones can be uh, 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 produced by engineers in a studio, but the green noise really comes from recorded natural sounds. So that's why I recommend. Um, it's because it just gets you into a calmer state, and also many people are saying if they want to get to sleep, that's what they use. Because if they want to get to sleep, it will calm that down, and then they're off. And some people said that they didn't really believe in it, tried it, and they said, and I said, how did it work? Well, they said I didn't know. I next thing I knew, I was waking up in the morning. So it helped them sleep. Did you have, let's see, oh, and Clarine, jazz playing in the background. Yeah, as I love jazz too. I love jazz too for relaxation. Um, and before I go on to, let's see, we did brown, we did white, we did green, we did pink, and there are others. There's, like I said, there's a violet, there's black, and but I mentioned the ones that are most often used and what they're used for. Um, but we can't. I don't think it's complete talking about sound or sound therapy without talking about something called binaural beats. Some people have heard of it, and some have not. And it's just what it sounds like, two sound beats. But let me tell you how it affects your mood and emotions, just like the other ones, but it gets there a different way. They combine two different kinds of noise at different frequencies. They play them at the same time, but at slightly different frequencies. And what they do is they act with the neurons or the nerve cells in your brain. Now, the nerve cells in your brain, they're up there um, in acting with the neurotransmitters to bring the signals to the brain and to the rest of your body, kind of control center up there, right? But what they do when you play the binaural beats, it joins with the neurons in your brain to form a third beat that gives you a sense of euphoria. I had no idea when I went in, I knew it worked because I tried it and it was very relaxing, but it's not for everyone. And I'm going to go over now why it isn't. It's because it does affect your brain waves, right? We have 5 different kinds of brain waves. The ones we usually talk about when we're talking about this kind of thing are 2: delta, which is for your sleep, and theta, which is for meditation, right? So if you're going to use binaural beats, here's what you do. You need, forget those cutesy wootsy little earbuds. You need the full headset, and you have the left mic for the left ear, the right mic for the right ear. And if you if you have had a brain injury, a brain bleed, a stroke, an epileptic fit, you do not want to use binaural beats, because anything that interferes or interrupts brainwave activity can trigger a seizure. So not everyone can use binaural beats if you have something like that going on with your brain, but if you can use it, it's very calming. So I wanted to go over like a quick summary. White noise, you have insomnia, ringing in the ears, ADHD, calming people who are autistic. There are people who go their whole day wearing the headset with the white noise because they're autistic, and it cancels out sounds that they would find disturbing or distracting. And it calms the crying babies. The pink noise is for sleep and relaxation. The brown noise helps you with focus and if you have ADHD or if you're in a noisy place. And green noise will put you to sleep. It'll relax you to sleep. And I have some more advice about using sound. Listen to music or sound at a safe level, 70 decibels and below. A typical rock concert, by the way, uses 90 to 120. They've even been clocked at doing 130 decibels. Very damaging. It can cause damage to your hearing that's permanent. Um, and if you don't have any way to measure the sound, if it sounds loud, it's too loud, right? If to you it sounds loud, it's too loud. You move away from the sound, or if you have no way of controlling it, You can't turn it down, or you ask someone, turn it down. It is hurting me. And start with the music. Like if you want to use noise or music, what makes you feel good? Does it make you feel good? Does it put you to sleep? Does it calm you? Um, or sometimes I use music to energize me, right? That's another way to use it. Be willing to experiment. Sound is great to experiment with. No drugs, right? You can find out quickly where that works for you. And always start out with options. If you're going to make a lifestyle change, start small. Start with things that are easy, that are affordable, that are repeatable. And why? Because you want to use them consistently, because you know, I'm sure, that when you do things consistently, you get better results. So that's basically what I had to share. I would like to know if people have questions about something I may have said. Some people don't understand what autism is, but this may be a group that already familiar with that.
A lot of people in our community are familiar with neurodiverse, and multiple members also in our my meta group, Illuminations Groups for Talented Entrepreneurs, where we also usually share replays. So today, also for some reason, today it's our live isn't going in my group. It's going on my Be Visible with Mel page on Meta. So I'll make sure that we replay it there, and want to welcome Terise there as a group member. But Terise, you had a generous
Thank you.
offer in addition to all the knowledge that you've given us and all the steps, and love it. You also mentioned a complimentary gift that you were offering our guests for tapping. Do you want to talk about that before we get ready to close out?
I do. I would love to. I use tapping all the time. I use it with my clients. And what you do is, it's very simple to do. I like to do tailored tapping sessions for my clients. But what you do, there's certain points that you touch on your body that are connected to the meridians, and these meridians in your body have a certain energy. And when you do tap on them, you stimulate the amygdala in the brain. It's a little pistachio sized structure that's kind of a part of your emotion center. And when you tap on it and you say, you start out by accepting and loving yourself, and then you go through what it is that you are bothered by or working on, and then you go through and say, affirmations of, basically like, let's say, um, you're uncomfortable in crowds, right? Let's say that. So you tap on that, and the things that you go through with that. Then you go, I am comfortable in crowds. But by the tapping, it's like a multiplier as far as making that so much more effective. There are people who at the end of sessions have felt better about themselves. I mean, not even long sessions, felt better about themselves, felt more energized, even had some pain go away, that they weren't even going after the pain issue. All right. So it's a very effective method, and it gives people the opportunity to see how I would relax them, because I do a relaxation before that, and so that they can get their minds into the tapping session. So yes, and I am offering a 20-minute session for free. And I would love it if you would give yourself the opportunity to benefit from it, and also see what it's like to go through a session with me, and see that, I don't bite. And of course, it's done in absolute confidentiality. And so far, I've never had anyone not feel better about themselves once they went through a session. So I hope that gives people a good idea of what it is that I do. So if you hit that tap with Terise, and set up an appointment, and I am only holding this open until January 15th right now. So that's when you'd have to go ahead and book with me. And I'd be delighted to get to meet you and know you, and show you the benefits of it. Or if you already know the benefits, you can benefit from my experience of doing it, and uncovering things that may just make you feel so much better about yourself by the time you finish with the session. Was there anything else? Any questions or?
Clarine had a great kind of close us out
Mm.
about how she uses music. And I really appreciate this, Clarine, because I'm starting to name some of our possible live sessions around musical tones and a real great reminder. And I laugh because Precious Pitchmaster Williams told us how she has like 3 songs she plays before her speaking events. And she had said this
Yeah.
during a live event, and I'm having a lot of fun playing a version of the song before the live. We did Can You Feel It a couple of weeks ago by the Jacksons remix by Kirk Franklin.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
then we did
Uh-huh.
Meet Me on the Moon with Phyllis Hyman. And our
Ah,
next session is
talent.
Annie Lennox. Sweet dreams are made of this. So I want to thank you for helping me get kind of my groove on in a period of time also where this week I'm adding some Zumba and lots of movement back in.
Mm,
But
cool.
Terise, I cannot thank you enough for kind of taking us here and there and everywhere. And and giving us a lot of that's a great giggle, but giving us a lot of reminders that we need to play with this, discover it. I love also that Shel Shapiro said, "Hey, how can we get this into some more of LinkedIn best practices?" And if you haven't had a chance yet, Therese, Shel Shapiro is on Thought Leadership Branding's LinkedIn Mastery on Thursday
Okay.
nights with Melanie
Okay.
Mitchell Wexler and with Roy Kowarski.
Okay.
They do a LinkedIn 101. It is fantastic. It'll give you a chance to. Shell loves also supporting health and wellness professionals around LinkedIn. And I'm delighted to have had a chance to work with Clarine in the past and work with Shell as I'm bringing out the more spiritual mindset voice and sharing more. But I just want to thank you for joining us today. For lots of notes. I'm looking forward to going back and seeing this. And I love that you started with start small and
Yeah.
the reminder. I'm smiling because in a conversation with Shell, my words of the year this year were kaleidoscope and cadence. Kaleidoscope to remind me to keep playing with the lens, and cadence to remind me about the timing and the sustainable energy. And in a conversation with Shell, I was reminded to add resonance. So I can't thank you enough for being,
You're well.
for just fitting into that. And
And I
Christy's
wanted to
got
say about what Clarine said, that I always play music that gets my energy up before I do my LinkedIn audio. I mean, when I start my LinkedIn audio, it starts with just music, just to get people in the mood of, hey, let's come together and let's have some fun and support each other up. Support each other up. So thank you, and thanks, Melanie, for inviting me to do this. This has been fun.
and thank you so much because Christy is putting books and all sorts of links about insights in her playlists. She also put balmy drum sound therapy in there. And she's got uh thank you so much, Christy, for just popping in. And I know we're across time zones, everybody, and really we appreciate your time and the energy you bring, whether you're joining us live or for replays. And this one too. Here's a toast to Therese and to our amazing guests today and everybody for joining us live. And I'm glad I've got a little bit of bubbly today. So we joke all the time. I have some seltzer coming your way, but I want to thank you for adding some sparkle and some spice into our day and into our vibes. And boy, I'm really going to think about this as I'm playing with sounds and have a bit of a drive up and back this week. I was planning on listening to my first audiobook because I don't usually listen to them while I drive because they make me sleepy. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
made the
and you
plan.
don't wanna listen to the real calming sounds while you're driving either, right? Because, yeah, you can
It's
actually
funny, we
fall
talk about
asleep.
it all the time in terms of PQ reps and positive intelligence. I love what you said too, because you're reminding as we're slowing stuff down to be really careful when we hit that pause button. Make sure we're
Yeah.
really well supported. We're not in motion. And
Operating heavy machinery.
when something
Yeah.
happens externally to distract us, but at the same time, it sounds interesting, and you're helping us make holiday wishes. And thank you, Therese, for suggesting this amazing, deep, and rich topic. So thank you all for joining us today for Tune into the Sound Rainbow to achieve inner calm. Thank you for joining us for Impossible Live, whether you're joining us live or for a replay. If you're in the middle of holiday and other milestone celebrations, enjoy them and keep creating beautiful, wonderful memories and sharing your insights. And I hope you stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, and please stay in touch. Have a magnificent day filled with opportunities and possibilities. And take great care. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.